Thank you very much for joining me, Paul and Peter. Paul, we hear a lot about growers these days operating in a very data-rich environment. They've got detailed information about their production, inputs, weather, etc. But this project isn't looking in the field, is it?
No, it's not, Tom. It's purely about the business metrics of a vegetable or onion business. So we're deep diving into the financials that go through the business from a costs and income point of view, and what that looks like as the business model. So it's a real deep dive into someone's financials and business structure, really, in terms of, when I say business structure, how they operate. So not necessarily whether they're a company or a trust is not really the issue. It's more about how their business operations operate and how that actually turns into income and profit for hopefully many.
And this is all pretty commercially sensitive ground. How do you manage the privacy concerns that growers might have about sharing this information?
Yeah, most definitely, Tom. It's something that is absolutely paramount in our business as Planfarm, as a consultancy now across Australia that covers over 500 businesses in Western Australia, and now into these horticulture projects, financials, production information is all highly confidential. So we have a server access only to our consultants. The information is only shared from a report basis and financial analysis basis with the client. If they so choose to share with their accountant or bank manager, that's totally their prerogative, but only the client will see the information that we gather for them and put together for them in an individual report. And we do benchmark clients within states and then across states in this project. It's a national project. And what we do there is what's called de-identified aggregated data. So that means that each individual grower gets a number, a specific number, and there's nothing in that data set that can actually determine where that grower may be. So size in terms of area of hectares or postcode or anything like that. So when that de-identified data goes to the funders, pretty much Hort Innovation, and we appreciate that, then they know nothing about the individual grower. It's all just a number to them. So that's, the confidentiality is absolutely key to us, because any sort of leak of any data outside of our server and outside of this project pretty much means the end of our business, and that's not what we want.
And Peter, you were involved with the earlier WA benchmarking project that I guess was the precursor for this national project. What do you think growers can learn by comparing those parts of their business against others in their district and nationally?
Yeah, look, Tom, I think in reality, growers keep information close to their chest. They're not really willing to share very often. I mean, I think that's something you see in the industry for a long time, but I think that's starting to change, and I think there's a bit of a turn at the moment, and we're definitely seeing that here. We've been involved since the start of the benchmarking process, and I think the advantages for us have been massive, and they've been very obvious once we've gone through the process. I think the first step there, I guess, in that benchmarking part, to see where you're sitting within the industry. So is our business sitting in, the top 25% and the next 25%, or are we sitting in the bottom down here? And gives you an idea of where you are efficiency wise. And I think that's a great concept, but I think that's only the first step. I think the main step after that is really where the big benefit starts. And I think that's what you'll see with what Paul's saying here, is that there's a massive focus into your own business. You're looking into all your costs. You're looking into breaking down, like for us, we looked into breaking down by product. And now we do a whole bunch of different products. And to tell you the truth, some of those products we were either making next to nothing or we're actually going backwards. That was something that became very obvious. I think it's easy to look at the end of the year and look at your whole business and say, look, we've done this well, we've made this profit. But during that year, if you're doing 12 different products and you've gone backwards in 2 products, it may well be, you may be much better off to remove those 2 products from your growing or your processing completely, and then your efficiency goes through the roof. There are probably 2 things that really stick in my mind with regards to the process we've gone through with Planfarm especially, and that is the operating efficiency, and try to hit that operating efficiency. That means that's the target we're trying to hit, and their help in guiding us in what to do to reach that efficiency. And then the other thing, which is probably more from the first part of the benchmarking, it just sticks in my mind. There was just a one sentence that came up that still sticks with me all the time, and that is simply that what is not measured is not managed. And I think the first time I heard that, it just sunk into my head, and I can't tell you how many times we've brought it up at work, the conversations we've had, the things that we've done, the changes we've made, that, if you're not measuring something, how can you be managing it? And then, the processes and the changes we've made have been enormous in order to get the benefits that we have so far. So I think, how could people benefit? It's hard to explain until you actually go through it, I suppose. But I guess the first step is seeing in where you sit with regards to the industry as a whole, and then looking internally at your own business and your processes and where your spending is and where your costs are really coming in. It's an enormous process to go through.
Yeah, and what Peter and his family did really well, Tom, in the early days was benchmark against themselves. They had a number of years of data, and that's really important. This is just not a 1 year project. This is a project that lasts for 5 years. And the more years of data you get, the more it banks up on top of each other that you can actually compare against yourself. So benchmarking can be seen as a bit of a fluffy word in a way, because it doesn't always, if you're just benchmarking and not really diving into the business, what the output of this project is a benchmark data set. What's really important is that the deep dive into each individual business is about that individual business. So that's where it's not just a whole heap of data coming into Planfarm server and benchmarking it. It's actually, what does it look like for the Dobra family with their business? What does their business model look like? And how is every dollar they spend being turned into income? And that's what Peter was mentioning about operating efficiency. And that is just the key to any business. It's the midfield generator. It's the engine of any business. And that's the important thing that we dive into, and we match up production with financials. So often, we work with a lot of accounting firms in Broadacre in particular, and a few more now in horticulture. And each type of business, accounting or advisory, consulting advisory, has its different areas. And one thing that we do on top of the tax accounting and structure is actually look at how production and production measures turn into income and profit. And I think that's a real benefit in this project, is that matching up. What are you doing in the field? How is that working? What are you doing in the shed if it's processing? And how does that flow through to the bottom line? So we certainly don't tell growers how to do what they do, because they generally do it really, really well. It's looking at that inside their business to actually help them with that.
And I understand from the previous WA project, this was the first time that many growers had actually worked with a farm business consultant. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, many of them have very strong accounting relationships, which their tax accounting and their accounting year was managed extremely well. See very good tax management structure as well, Tom. So that's an important part of an accountant's role, is the structure of the business and how they can flow through income into different entities. But for many, there was never the actual match-up of production. What are we doing in the field? What are we doing in our business? And how does that look in terms of at what we call the year of effort? And that's the year that you produce and sell. Doesn't necessarily mean it lines up to the tax year. So in horticulture in WA and the southern regions, the year of effort does line up with a tax year, that July to June, so the production year. But as you go a bit further north, as you go into Carnarvon, as you go into lower areas of Queensland, across Australia, they run a bit more on a calendar year. So that's the year that we look at. So we're looking at what actually happened in that year of effort to produce the product, sell it, and then what came out the other end. So it's a little bit different to taxation.
And looking at the previous project, are there any examples of business improvements that growers made that could show the potential of the national project?
Yeah, I think Peter's mentioned a couple of his. I think their family is a classic in actually deep diving into product lines, and that was a real area that came out of the first part of the projects and probably instigated this next phase to go international. So that's one area that growers can look at. But I think the number one, I would say, Tommy, is actually looking at the operating efficiency in a business and working out what the next year looks like, whether there's cost increases. And one thing we did last year for all of the growers was a cost price analysis. So we looked at what costs were going up because we knew that wages were going up. We knew that fertiliser was going up, fuel, freight. So all of those major costs in a horticulture business were all going up. So what we were trying to develop for the grower was, if your business is faced with these cost increases and you maintain the current level of operating efficiency, then what does that mean for the price and the production at the other end that you need to get? And what we're able to do is help growers in parts of their negotiations with their suppliers to negotiate on price. Now, that's not always the case in every horticulture business, but it was certainly a big area that actually helped the growers in their discussion with their suppliers to actually say, well, look, this is what it's doing to my business. How can we negotiate to actually make sure that I can get some of that back? So, and for many, that was just to cover the costs, Tom. It wasn't actually to make any more profit. So I think that was a big win last year, was actually helping that discussion, that conversation with their suppliers and those that are buying their products to actually make sure that they were getting a fair price for what their business could generate.
Yeah, really one of the big things for us with the interaction with Planfarm and being involved in this project was being able to address pricing with regards to the costs. Now, specifically for us during COVID, costs have gone through the roof. And by each year being involved with Planfarm, with the project, we've been able to review our pricing over and over and over. If we got to the end point here at the end of COVID, or somewhat the end of COVID now, and we were trying to get to the operational efficiency we would want to get to, there's no way we could implement a price increase that covers everything over the past 3 to 5 years. But Planfarm has helped us to realise our costs on an ongoing basis in order to cover those cost increases by adjusting our pricing, and it's been at an acceptable level to our clients, and therefore we've been able to stay at a level of efficiency that's really kept the business going.
And looking ahead at this new national project, what's the timeline that you're working towards?
Yeah, so we're virtually getting into business analysis now, virtually across the nation. So we've joined forces with a business called RMCG in the east, a very popular and well-known consultancy firm based in a number of states in the east coast. So we'll work with them over the different states in gathering data, meeting growers, deep diving into their individual businesses, and then bringing that together as a national benchmark across Australia, but also done by state. So that will be starting very, very soon, Tom, and then this will continue on for the next 5 years. So we'll be looking to deep dive into hopefully 150 plus businesses over the country over a 5-year period. So we'll build up over the years and bring more growers in as we go. Because you can't do everything in 1 year, but certainly we'll be aiming to get a good number of growers in this first year across Australia, and then build that up over the next 5.
So you're recruiting growers at the moment. If people are interested, where can they find out more?
Yep, certainly. So if you're in the eastern states, in Victoria, Tasmania, New South Wales, RMCG is the business to contact, and they've got a contact person in there. Just search up them on the website and get their contact details, and the same in WA, South Australia, and Queensland will be Planfarm. So if growers are interested, they can search those 2 names, and it'll take them to where they need to go to get in contact with us.
Well, Paul Omodei from Planfarm and Peter Dobra from the Loose Leaf Lettuce Company, thanks very much for walking us through the project and joining me today.
Thanks, Tom.
Tom. It's a pleasure.